Hi there, welcome back to the channel and welcome to something slightly different. This is not a repair series, this is not a restoration series, this is not designing and building a tube tester. That's still in the background there, waiting for parts. This is actually going to be one video on one radio beginning to end. First of all, I want to tell you that this radio was a gift from René. Now René is the owner of that Selena that I just did. I've sent it back to him, hope it stays with him and works for many years. And he actually offered me this. This thing came at about the same time as the Selena. Thank you, René. I really appreciate it. And this one is especially special. It is a transistor radio. It's from 1965, and it has the rather unique characteristic of being one of the first transistor radios that Philips designed and built and put on the market. And René tells me that somewhere inside here, it says there's a date somewhere, a date stamp of 4th of January 1965, which was the first working day, a Monday, of 1965, the year this thing was launched. So this is probably one of the first lot that came out of the factory. It's certainly something that tickles my fancy. I like that idea. The other thing about this radio is that it looks absolutely immaculate. There are a few little scratches at the back, but if you look at this from the front, it looks like it's a new old stock. I have never seen one of these radios from that period coming out of a box that's never been opened. I've never seen a new old stock receiver in my life. Somewhere in some warehouses, there are probably a lot of these things lying around in boxes, never been opened, and probably looking like they did when they came out of the factory, give or take a bit of mold. But this one has been used and it looks immaculate. So what I need to do on this radio is actually correct one issue, and that is the hum that it's got. But I'm going to take it out. I'm going to do some checks. I want to check all the capacitors. This thing's been around for quite a few years, right? 35, 57 years, almost as old as me. So I want to make sure that it's going to last for a long time. Capacitors usually are an issue. The hum tells me that at least the filter capacitors are an issue, a known issue, which René warned me about. Other than that, he tells me it's working perfectly. So we'll go through that, test it, and I'll show you the result. And I hope you enjoy the video. Stick around. When you look at this radio, it looks like it just came out of the factory. It's absolutely perfect. I mean, look at it. This is what I would call true new old stock. When you look at it from the front, it looks immaculate. Immaculate. There aren't any dings, there's no scratch, there's nothing missing, nothing broken. It's all nice and clean. It is absolutely amazing. Whichever way you look at it, it's amazing. Now it's got a dual dial. The FM is on the left. There's the tuning indicator, of course. That dial on the left is only for FM. And then on the right-hand side is the dial for the long wave, medium wave, and short wave. Completely separate, which is unusual. And then, of course, we've got the switches, the on-off, the pickup, long wave, medium wave, short wave, and the U, which is FM. It's all there, and everything immaculate. We have the dual tuning knob, one section for the FM, the other section for the AM bands. Then we've got the volume control, the bass and treble controls as well. Now the back is where we start seeing some signs of use. The label on the right hand side is pretty tarnished. The actual plastic, the brown plastic, is immaculate. Everything there is perfect as well. And the only time you will see sign of use is when we zoom in to this section. You can actually see that those plugs have been used. We've got the usual AM and FM antenna, pickup input, and the external speaker connection. But before we carry on, I just want to thank the sponsors of this video, PCBWay. Right now, they're in the middle of their 5th PCB design contest, and they're inviting you to join. If you have any project ideas, by all means, participate. The prizes are really amazing. Have a look for yourself. You just go to their website, PCBWay.com, look for the link to the contest, and get cracking. And they'll also serve you well with any other needs you have, like CNC machining, 3D printing, anything else you need, they'll sort you out. I'm actually going to try the radio out before doing anything to it. I'm not sure what needs doing, but I just want to show you the insides while we're at it. I've taken 3 screws out of here, and this thing slips sideways. It says so here, and it comes out, and the reason is it's got these little these little clamps, so it fits in sideways. Now, what do we have here? Well. There's a spare fuse here. Looks like everything is on this board. And then we've got the power supply section over here with the transformer and some pretty hefty capacitors. Because this thing's got two voltages selection, 220, 127, so it's okay for European or US markets. Here is our mains transformer, nothing unusual. It looks like this whole thing comes out as a module. I'm not sure how the dial is on, but we'll see in a second. There is, what is this? We'll find out as well. It looks like this thing had another speaker here, or there was the option of putting another speaker on here. This thing's only got one. A very big filter cap over here, which according to René is, this thing is humming. So I might have to replace the electrolytics on this thing. Two more big electrolytics over here, smaller one there, and then the rest seems to happen all on this side. And I will be taking this out and I will see what needs doing. I can see a little electrolytic sticking its nose out there. It's probably one of those Phillips axials. So there's obviously some sort of coupling going on, DC AC coupling, probably to the external speaker. This thing is, it allows for an external speaker on this DIN socket over here. And it looks like it's got one of those DIN sockets that when you push it in, it plugs or unplugs something. In other words, if you push in an external speaker, it'll probably disconnect your internal speaker, which is normal. Couple of transistors here on the tied to the heatsink. This board, this board looks a little precarious. A lot of the tin has come off over here. So some of the copper traces are visible. The tin plating has come off, but that's probably normal with age. Nothing too unusual there. It's a typical 60s board, 65. So I don't expect anything to be too unusual. After having done that Antoinette, I'm ready for anything on these things. So, but as René says, this thing works pretty well. In fact, he says it works perfectly on FM. And he told me something which I'm looking for right now. He said there's a date code on here that says 4th of January 1965. It's somewhere inside the chassis. I'll look for it. But the reason I'm interested in that date is because this thing is a 1965 radio, and René drew my attention to the fact that the 4th of January was the first Monday of the year. So this would be one of the first radios of the series. Okay, so with the back out, I'm going to put in the FM antenna, which actually, this is that pluggable one, which fits into the FM, which came with the radio. I don't have one for the AM, but I can always stick two wires on there. I've got this plugged in. That's our off. Let's try FM. Yeah, you can hear the hum. With the volume on 0, you can certainly hear the hum. So those capacitors need changing. So this back one is the FM tuning knob. And by the way, this thing goes all the way to 108 megahertz.
Da praca ao minuto, edição especial de bola branca a partir das...
Okay, that's pretty normal. So our FM is working very well actually, but I don't have the antenna stretched out properly. What I'm going to do now is just put the mini whip on the back and see how the AM fares. It's early afternoon, so it shouldn't be that good, but we'll see. Okay, now, as I said, the AM bands use this dial over here, as opposed to the FM that uses all that. So, shortwave, medium wave, long wave. Let's try medium wave. And of course, we're using the outside tuner.
Ejercicio bajo el programa SOCEBAL. Y además estamos. Hola.
Bullying não é uma tarefa de dia.
That's the Portuguese, the Madeiran station on medium wave, the only one we've got. The others were all Canary Islands. So medium wave is receiving. Don't expect anything on long wave at this time of the day, but oh yeah, there's always this station. I don't know where it comes from.
Comme le vôtre, on peut se permettre de voilà. Chacun a son expérience et de là il peut. Oui, alors moi mon expérience c'est que.
Our tone controls are certainly working. There's another one. This is North Africa. Okay, shortwave. No, but that's got to do with the time of day. I didn't expect much anyway. Okay, nothing to do but, well, take it out of the cabinet and see what we can do about it. I think we'll have to remove these knobs first, obviously. And then this should slide back. I'm hoping that the entire chassis slips out of the cabinet without having to do anything to the dial strings. I don't want to have to restring this thing, although this one is probably a lot easier than the others. But let me get cracking and see what we've got. I just want to show you something. These things are very simple to remove from the cabinet. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. There's another one just up there. I think you can just see it. But it's also got a little window over here, and I believe this thing should give us access to the dial lights, because it's got those 2 dial lights down there. Pretty tough to see, but there are 2 dial lamps in there, and I think you just pull them out and replace them, and they tell you what it is. There is a 100 milliamp, well, they're both 12 volts, 100 milliamp lamps. That's pretty neat. I like it. I like it. This would, you just remove 1 screw really, and it flips out. I think I'll put it back so I don't lose it. Okay, then I'm going to get cracking with those screws. Removed all the screws. Now we just have to see whether this thing behaves itself or whether it becomes a typical Phillips. Oh, it would help if I took the knobs out. Okay, take 2. Ah, brilliant. This whole thing came out complete. There's absolutely nothing connecting it to the cabinet. Everything seems to be intact in there. Something is making a noise. What is that? Piece of plastic. Where did that come from? I'll just leave it here, see where that goes later. Okay, put that aside for now, and we'll have a look at the radio. And this is it. I was being stupid. That there's just the tuning indicator. And that is just a carpet foam that they put around here to insulate the sound and improve bass response, I would imagine. That speaker looks like it's got the incorporated tweeter in the center there. So it's a full range speaker. Let's have a look at this a bit closer. So here we've got the tone and audio pots, the volume pot and the tone pots. We can align through the front here, presumably through the back as well. These things will have alignment holes at the bottom and the top, I think. Just a question of looking here. Actually, no. These are only from the top. These things are pretty sensitive. I had a problem recently in one of these. There are a few electrolytic caps on there. Those, they're actually axials fitted vertically. They're actually fitted as radials, but they're axials. We look at the side here. This is one set of tuning. That is the AM tuning, and it turns that tuning condenser. We can see it there. And the top one turns this one, and that is, it's actually fitting the, or pushing the inductor into a coil. So this is inductor tuning is a term for it. I keep forgetting, but yeah, okay. But it's all accessible, and it's actually adjustable from the side if you need to align it. It's all sort of shielded to the rest of the radio, but it's open to the side. That's something I haven't seen much on these radios. They're usually pretty well shielded, but I presume they don't need it. All these pulleys need a bit of lubricating. This thing's a bit stiff. They just need some lubrication. Nothing dramatic there. Again, the back of those audio pots are easy to clean, and they will be cleaned. So no electrolytics on there. There are a few on this board, obviously. Yeah, this board's got a lot of them. You see all those? I think I'll be replacing all those capacitors. They're pretty easy to get to. You can get through here, and then actually I think the speaker could probably come out. I'll see. I don't think I need to remove this board. Hopefully not. I should be able to get to those capacitors from the side, and then just desolder on the other side. But it all looks pretty accessible over here. Same applies to the power supply board here. This one I could actually remove. It's not too difficult. There's a capacitor down here as well. That one you can see there, the blue one, two in the front. These big resistors are probably all okay because this thing's working. And here's probably the main reason for this thing humming. This thing has been under pressure. It's been bubbling. It's actually cracked there, so there's been some pressure in there. I think this capacitor's gone. Now, how am I going to do this? I think I'm going to adapt the same policy that I did for the Selena. I'm not going to go all out to try and make this looking exactly the same as when it came out of the factory, but if you look at the back of this radio, there are a few things that stand out. That capacitor, these two capacitors, they really stand out. And I think they look kind of stupid with a little, what is that, probably 1,000 microfarads or something? This is actually, yeah, probably 1,000 or 2,000, I'm not even sure. I haven't looked at the schematic. It look a bit stupid with a little knob of a capacitor over there, and same over here. So what I probably will do is I'll restuff that one, and I'll also restuff these two. I just wanted to look as original as possible. This thing is one of the first of these radios to have come out of the factory. It's one of the first transistor radios that Philips did. So I think it deserves a bit of respect. You know, maybe a little bit of plastic surgery, but not a full facelift. You can do a bit of damage control, but, you know, changing the whole thing, I think will just make this thing lose all its value. And its real value is in its uniqueness, in its age, the fact that it was one of the first radios that came out of Philips with transistors, and the fact that it's in such beautiful, beautiful physical condition on the outside. Okay, I'm going to get cracking on working on this, on these capacitors and so on, and get back to you when I've got some news. And here we are, folks. It doesn't look like much has changed, does it? Well, that's actually the idea. I removed this cap. It's supposed to be 2,500 microfarads. I took the top off, ripped out the guts. This was not that easy because this rim is very tightly crimped in there, but I managed to get it off and cleaned up the insides. This has only got one capacitor. The ground of this capacitor, unlike most of the ones we see on the tube radios, is not actually connected to ground, to the chassis. You've got a negative coming out and a positive coming out. I took photos of this before, and now I just put it together exactly the same way as it was before. As you can see there, I had to rip this out rather dramatically. It's pretty tight, but it came out, didn't break, and so I was able to redo the capacitor. Now, this is by no means perfect. When you reset the edge, it is by no means perfect. I mean, the only person I know who can get it absolutely perfect is Dave Tipton, and nobody can do a Tipton like a Tipton, so I won't even pretend that I'm on the same level as he is with chassis restorations. Dave, you've made us all jealous. But this is good enough for me, and if you look at it from any sort of distance, especially if this thing is in the cabinet, you really won't be able to tell that anybody's messed with it. On the inside, I put two capacitors, a 2200 and a 1000. So instead of 2500, I got 3200, which is no problem. It's a little bit more. It actually filters a little bit better. That's done. What about these guys? Well, I decided to do exactly the same with these guys. This has got the blue coating on it, cover on it. It's a plastic cover. The inside is exactly the same color as that. So I cut that up, ripped this out. This was a little bit more messy because you have to put more force on a single contact, because in this case the ground is actually connected to the bottom, which is indeed the chassis. These were 2 by 800 microfarad capacitors, so 1600 microfarads according to the schematic. I put in 2 by 1000 microfarads, so I've got 2000 microfarads. These are in parallel, so you just add them. I rewired everything exactly the way it was. And then I also replaced the one at the back here, which you can hardly see down there. And what I did there is I used a conventional capacitor and just wrapped it in blue heat shrink. So it looks like the Philips. You don't see it anyway, but it looks pretty similar. Put that in. That's actually the capacitor that connects the speaker to the output. This radio, the output works on half the supply rail, so you need to remove the DC from it. And that's done as well. Then I started looking at the other capacitors on the inside here, and even that one there. This is where I found something quite unusual. None of these capacitors need changing. I removed a few of them, 3, 4 of them, tested them, and they are spot on. So what I decided to do is I decided to leave it, because I wanted to leave this radio as original as possible. Admittedly, you don't even see those when you look at it from the back, but I did want to leave it as original as possible. So I decided that I was not going to change those at all. If I'd found one that was off, I would have changed them all, but I found none that were off. So I decided to leave it. And also there's always a risk you can mess something up with these pads. They're very sensitive, they're very fragile. You just heat this a bit too much and the pad comes off. So I thought, well, you know, for the sake of knowing I've got new capacitors in there, replacing capacitors that I know are generally looking very good, why would I want to create that hassle for me? So I left it at that. It can always be done in the future. This is a very easy radio to remove. But the point is, this thing's working perfectly. Other than the hum that we were getting from those guys, they're the ones that see a lot of higher voltage and also a lot of ripple. So the hum problem is gone. So I thought, leave that alone. And then I focused on this bottom strip here. This was in fact the only part of the radio that looked like it'd been used. I polished it. I put some clear lacquer on top so it doesn't rust. I'm sure that in polishing it, I removed some of the coating. It now looks like stainless steel. It looks very good, actually. And other than that, all I did was lubricate pulleys and put some very little amount of oil on any of the moving parts over here so that this thing works very well. It's smoother. It's not as tight. And I also cleaned the pots. There's the volume, the tone, the two-tone pots. Those were also cleaned. They weren't crackling anyway, but they were cleaned. And then I did some cleaning on here. The only part that really needed it was the back of these guys were all covered in a coat of dust. That was cleaned up. These panels here, these surfaces here were cleaned up as well. And as I've said endless times before, you don't see this anyway, but I would know if there's dirt there. So that's all been cleaned up, and I'm happy with the result. Now I'm going to put this thing back in the cabinet. I've tested it last night. I'm very happy with the reception. I'm getting no issues with sensitivity or selectivity. So I'm not going to mess with the alignment. I think that's perfectly fine. All these alignment points are still sealed. These things can hold on for generations, and this one seems to have done so. Sensitivity is very, very, very good. I'm going to give you a demo when I put this back into the cabinet. We won't be able to hear some of the the finer points of the sensitivity on the AM bands because this is morning, but I can tell you this thing comes out, it works very, very well. FM is absolutely fabulous. Okay, let me get this back in the cabinet and we'll have a look at the final result. Will you look at that? Doesn't look much different, right? Because this thing was immaculate to start with. But this is amazing. I really am amazed every time I look at this thing. I have never seen one as new as this one. And now it's lost its hum. It is incredibly sensitive. And I'm going to give you a demo in a second. But let me just show you. Let's do the carousel bit. Look at that. It looks like it came out of the factory, and it's even got that part cleaned up as well. These two wires are here so I can connect the external antenna. The FM has that plug. So I'm going to turn it around and we'll test it. We'll see how good it is. Well, as I said, it's morning, so we won't get the best out of AM. But let me show you how it sounds. Okay, let's see what I can demonstrate without infringing copyrights. Let's try long wave.
السيادية والحل الدستوري والانتخابات وكيفية توحيد المؤسسات. أعتقد أن هذه المبادرة المغربية هي مبادرة مطلوبة حاليا في ظل غياب
This is North Africa.
في ظل غياب أي حل دولي مطروح. صرح الوزير الأول في كلمة ألقاها خلال افتتاح منتدى التوزير الذي نظمه مجلس التسجيل الاقتصادي.
This is again North Africa. Now, last night I was testing it and I got BBC Radio 4 on 200 kilohertz. I got the Irish station, what is it, RT Ireland in 252, and I got something else. Can't remember what it was, but this dial was full and there was no buzzing. We've got a storm going on outside, so it doesn't surprise me. Let's try medium wave.
Viven familias en Chabolas, malviven familias en Chabolas, es una de las zonas más deprimidas de Sevilla. Gracias. Esta mañana. El padre de Aymar, el verde.
Incipiente carrera política. Lo que importa es esto. Cultural 2022.
These that you heard here from Canary Islands, this last one here is the local AM station. And again, last night, this thing was chock-a-block, chock full with stations. Same with shortwave, which I'm not sure we'll get today or now. No, we had that yesterday when we were testing it as well. Now let's try FM. FM now is the back knob, and it's that dial over there.
Anote, 91.
Em diferentes momentos migratórios.
Okay, I can't stop there because it's there's music playing and that would be a copyright issue. But these guys are all fine as according to what I normally receive here. In fact, I'm receiving a few stations here that I normally cannot really tune to. They're just too noisy, and they're pretty good here.
Maternidade. O criador instalou-se nas aldeias do
This is the news, and it's
percorreu o Rio Tejo.
one of the ones I get quite well on 92. I beg your pardon, on 99, and it's right on 99 over there.
Lisboa, aí em frente ao Ministério do Trabalho, Sandra Ricos.
Sim, onde se encontram dezenas e dezenas de trabalhadores de misericórdias de vários pontos do país. Acho onde o espetáculo vai para.
And again, onto that end, I normally don't receive anything. So, in conclusion, this radio was immaculate and it was humming. Now it's immaculate and it's not humming. The reception's very good. The alignment is very good, at least on FM, where I've checked some of the stations that I recognize. I can't do anything more to this. In fact, if I did more to this, I'd probably make it worse. So sometimes you just have to know when enough is enough. And the only pity that I have or feel is that I couldn't get that capacitor looking like one of Dave Tipton's restuffings. But maybe I can convince him one day to come visit Madeira and leave a whole ton of them for him to do. Anyway, I want to thank you all for your attention. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed looking or seeing this radio. It is indeed a collector's item. It's one of the first transistor radios from Philips, 1965. This one's got a date somewhere. I forgot to look for it again, but René, who kindly offered me this radio from the Netherlands, has told me there's a marking somewhere that says 4th of January 1965. That was the first workday of January of the year this thing was actually launched, which is quite amazing. So once again, René, thank you very, very much for this gift. I really, really appreciate it. This one's going to stay with me and get a lot of use. So everybody, thank you for your attention. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, finding my videos a lot easier. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon and on PayPal. The links are in the description below. And thanks for watching and stay safe.